Hello and good morning, and welcome to the United Devil with me, JB. I hope we are really well today, dressed in black, because it's like it's the great analogy of the United window so far. So hence the black. No, I'm only kidding. I hope we're all doing really well today. Today's the 11th of July. God, time's going really, really quickly in this window, in this year. Hope we're all doing really well today. I hope we can all get in the chat again. The one thing I will say for this community is that whenever we get into a chat, I absolutely love it. So before we start the show, I just want to say that I've had my, well, not first, but had somebody come into one of the comments and apparently I need to close the channel down because basically I'm regurgitating everything in there, and basically the only sources that I've got are tomato sauce. Now I don't pretend that I have numerous links into United, but neither does anybody else other than Fabrizio Ornstein and a couple of the channels that are bigger may have the odd person or two in there, but nobody gets anything from the club. And as opposed to regurgitating everything else, I mean, if that was the case, then every media, social media, paper, anything else would have to close because we all report on the same thing. Now, I consume information. I try to create a single show a day because right now I don't really see the point in just doing things for clicks, and that's what I won't do here. I also won't try to limit the things that we say, as long as we are respectful and we treat each other's opinions with respect. That is what I want to build here. I am not only reporting what I think is important, I think it's really important as well to have a chat to discuss the topics on hand, and for you guys to bring in your opinions. Now, my opinions are based upon not on a source, based on the things I consume, based on both points of the arguments. My 38 years of experience of supporting this club from a young boy. I've seen some of the greatest teams. I've seen some of the most amazing windows, and I'm not going to apologize. I'm certainly not going to close down the channel because somebody has the hump. And you also know when you're doing something well because people come in and they want to close you down. So that was an interesting one this morning. Anyway, so top of the show, and again, I don't know about anybody else, Rashford, and again, he is taking center stage on the thumbnail and taking center stage at the club. Now, I'm going to caveat this. I'm going to prefix this to say that ultimately, at the end of the day, United did give him the contract. So we are the architects of the downfall that we've made, but obviously to get through to this window, and we can talk about the sell to buy as well. So according to Plettigol, that's Martin Plettenberg, that Barcelona have now made Rashford their number one target. So from Rashford on his tours the last couple of weeks, from him saying that Thierry Henry was his idol, I think he was saying that Keane at one point, Ronaldo, how Aston Villa were the best team in the land. No disrespects to Villa, I think they're a very, very good team. So it actually transpires now that Hansi Flick has given the green light, and we will start to be discussing the terms of our surrender. I hope that's not the case, but a Rashford deal. Now, I don't know what you think, and obviously feel free to get into the chat on this one. I'm pleased. I'm pleased to say that this is kind of now coming from a good source, not an Ornstein or a Fabrizio, but it is coming in from a good source. Now, as an example, so Garnacho yesterday, the day before that. Now, many people jumped on that, and hence this is why I try and do one show a sort of days, because again, I could have jumped on that. I could have come on here going back to the troll who told me that I need to close down the channel. This is why I don't jump on everything, and I don't regurgitate, and I don't get everything in, is because the beauty of kind of waiting is that then you don't report stuff. I'm never going to get anything right. You're never going to get anything right. Neither are the experts. Is because things can change, and we are all human beings. And this is what this is about. This is about I don't care about being right. So if I'm right as of now, then our window's going to be awful, and we're going to finish 10th in the league, and we're not going to do well, and Amarin potentially will get sacked. That's not what I want to happen. Right now, this is kind of where I'm kind of my mind is heading, purely because of the window that we've had. Now, I don't want to be correct on that, and it means that if I'm wrong and we finish fourth, feel free to come back in the chat and say you're wrong. Then you can close down the channel. But this is the beauty of this. This is why we can come here and have chats. And to that end as well, I want people to come here. I want people to get into those chats. And I'm not going to close you down as long as we are respectful. I believe in we need a balanced view, and we need to talk about this stuff, because how else do we have these chats? I think it's really important also to look back at the past, because then we can learn from the past. Every era, you look back at the past for the future. So I'm a big believer in you learn from the lessons that you make, and you look back to the past, not because you want to necessarily recreate the past, but what you want to do is you want to learn from your mistakes and improve. So I think it's really good news. I think Rashford, ultimately, I think the move that he's made shows a desperate player. I don't think anybody else wanted to come in for him. But my concern right now is the Barcelona waiting game and what they do. So typically, in my view, from what I've seen, is that they will wait to the end of the window and comes back to the other point in the title is that we need to sell to buy, which is quite obvious. And we can talk about that. I'd love to get your opinions on. Do you think we need to sell to buy? I'm of the opinion that we're so cash low, and don't get me started on PSR. We're so cash low that we actually need to sell players before we can complete any deal. So the problem with that is Rashford, I don't believe the Barcelona deal with that will get done until the end of the window. And the typical tact of that is they would try to lower that price. So I think the valuation on Rashford is about 40 million. And this could be the package all in. So this may not be upfront. This may be 40, maybe say +5, or it could be 35 +5. Who knows? So Barcelona will try to drive that price down as hard as they can. So they'll possibly wait until the end of the window. Now, there are lots of other outlets out there and lots of things that I've read about the tactics this year of United and their negotiating stance. So they don't want to pay this United tax, and we don't want to be taken to the cleaners on these deals. Now, I do agree that we need to set a new rhetoric around the club, and we need to kind of set this new way to do the business. But Rashford would be a really good indicator to see how much, as a club, we've actually changed. Are we going to hold to our guns and say, look, if the fact that In-Burmo is still not done and they're holding out for 65 million, I wonder if we can. We do complain when people are holding us to ransom. And again, if perhaps if we did that to other clubs, maybe you get their fans talking in the same way that we do. Why are we being so negative in the window? We're trying to hold up these deals. So why can't we give a little bit of that? Now, there are 2 points to this in my view, and I'd love to know your opinions on this as well. is on one hand, we've always been taken to the cleaners. We've had our pants pulled down, and we basically do whatever they want to do. So we need to stop to do that. But we currently need to sell to buy. So I think we're in this limbo state whereby we kind of have this front where we just like, no, we have the valuation of this player, and we're going to stick to it. So it's like a poker face when you know the other person has a flush and you basically have like nothing, or like a pair. So there's a balance, I think, this year that we're trying to do is we need to sell to buy, but also we need to get a fair price. So the Rashford deal to Barcelona, I do think that there is a green light, and I do think we are trying to do a deal. Now, I just wonder whether or not we're gonna be able to get this over the line. Will Rashford finally lower the demands of what he wants to get paid for his dream move? I believe he probably will do, but I think it's that, what is a fair price? I'd be interested to know what your fair price is. I think mine will be in this current market with some of the players that have already gone. And again, as someone I want to mention about how other clubs are buying players, as in Spurs. So Kudos has gone for 55 million. Madueke has gone to Arsenal for 52. Gibbs White for 60. So when we band in around these numbers, Rashford, whatever we think of this player and whatever the season that he's had, he's an international seasoned, player. When he plays in the right team on the right side that he's supposed to, he's worth 50 million any day of the week. Sadly, there's not a market for him. So I think, in my personal opinion, I think I'd like to see about 40 million, I think, just to get him off of the books. Even if we can do a 35 plus 5, I still think that's cheap for the caliber of player that you'll get. I think sometimes I'm blinkered. I think sometimes fans are blinkered because we know the player, what he's been like the last 18 months. So we're very, very close to that player, and we almost are reticent or to believe that we can get 50 million for a player. So Rashford, I think in any other year, even if he kind of had an okay year, I think we'd be talking 50 million in this market. But I think realistically we are looking at 50. I think we're looking at 35 to 45 million, an absolute maximum for him. So again, I'd be interested to know in the chat what you think about this deal. Do you think that Rashford, we can get him over the line, and will we actually bring some funds in? So second part that I wanted to talk about was, I think that of the last couple of days and hours, clubs like Sunderland are spending like 100 million plus. We've seen Spurs. I know they've got Champions League. They've gone for Kudos. They've got him from West Ham for 55 million, which I think is a good deal. Gibbs White, they've activated the release clause of 60 million. So obviously, depending on what it is they're going to pay there. Arsenal, Madueke, the Gyökeres deal, that's going to get done. I think 60 odd million for that. Olstead, is it, from Brentford? So they are doing their deals now. Spurs have gone from no signings to 2 signings, and I know that they're trying to do a third signing in the space of a week, in the space of a few days. And we're going to go back to our favourite subject on this, is that In-Burmo is obviously still not done. So why is it that Spurs can get Gibbs White done, Kudos over the line, Arsenal are now starting to do the business? However, we've been negotiating this deal for 6 to 7 weeks. So, and you may have a different opinion on this, but I think this has exposed us as to we actually don't have any cash for this deal, because what it seems to be apparent to me is that we are holding off on this deal. Are we holding off because we haven't sold any players? Now we have Fernandez and Fernandez and Alanga. So we've got that money in. But what's coinciding, or is it a coincidence that we haven't actually got this deal over the line because we have to actually sell to buy? Now for PSR, we're absolutely fine, and I talk about this and I'm regurgitating the same thing, but I think it's really important to remind ourselves on this, is that for PSR we're absolutely fine, but we don't have cash. So if we had the cash, and if this ownership decided to put in a load of money through whatever means, which they could, then we would be good to go. But we don't have the cash. So is it a coincidence? And I'd be really interested to watch the next week or so to see if the correlation between players that we sell, if we manage to get these deals done, because Sancho again is on, is off, is on, is off. Now the Sancho deal, which is to the side of this as well, is that Juventus seem to want this player, but the reason for the hold up, or one of the reasons for the hold up, is because Sancho wants a payoff. He basically wants a payoff of around 4 to 5 million to leave the club, and this is basically the sticking point, is that if we could get that done and get that paid, and I'm of the opinion, as much as I don't want to, well, we've had a bunch of funds, especially from the Langer deal, that we didn't know that we were going to get. Just give it to him. We know he is a mercenary. So the question that I ask really to the club and to fans, is it worth paying a player off knowing the positive impact on the pitch? So let's just say that Sancho's here, and so Joel is in the chat. Good day. The Sancho deal looks to be happening. The club better give Sancho the money just to remove this tiresome player out of the club. Couldn't have said it better myself. And you just come in there at the most opportune time. And I agree with you. I think that for the sake of 4 million, if that impact on the team is, do you know what, he's gone, it actually shows these players that we mean it this year, and we finished a couple of places up. We've already made that money back. So to get rid of these players, sometimes, if we're not necessarily going to take a book loss, and what this is us having to pay a player off, Joel makes a really good point. I think for a club, for us to move on, it's almost like when something happens, and I don't want to go to the worst case, but if something happens and you feel sad, and then it's not until you can move on and let something go that you can really move and shift as a club. And this is what we need to do. Once Sancho is gone, I think that will be the first brick in the wall to fall, and then hopefully the rest of the blocks will fall as well. It's just a show of strength to say, look, do you know what? Well, we're going to pay you off because we think you're so bad. We would rather break even on you. We know we're going to go places. We know we're going to eventually come to a place, to a profitable place. We're going to shoot up the league, and you're not part of that, and we don't want you to be part of that. So take this money, which is, at the end of the day, it's a lot of money to us, but to him, it's a small amount of money for your career. Really, it's not going to last long. It's for your reputation, for what people think of you as a player. Imagine you're going to be paid off to go to a club, his next club, as much as, they're going to sign him. Sancho, it's not going to be long until he annoys some fans, Juventus, and they will not stand for it. He'll be gone there as well. So I say pay him and get him out of the club. Joel, I completely agree with you. Just get him out of the club. So that then for me links back to once this player has gone. So let's just say we still don't get this In-Burmo done, and there is a slight caveat to that as well, which I'm sure you've seen, and I'm sure that you've seen this as well. So Wissa for Brentford as well is seriously being considered by Nottingham Forest. Spurs were looking at him. I don't believe that for a second. I think Frank was there, and Frank's trying to do everything he can to get his old club some money. So I don't think they were necessarily ever in for him. But Forest have made an offer. So there is, by all reporting, they put in an offer of 25 million when Brentford want more like 50 million. And that is a real possibility. Now, I don't know, obviously, if this has been put out there by whichever club to say, look, you need to get this deal done, because if Wizard goes, In-Burmo is going to stay. Now, again, that will be a really interesting thing to watch, because if United allow this In-Burmo deal to slip, I then got to start to question whether or not we wanted to pull out of this deal, because then we kind of think this deal is a bit expensive. And again, my opinion on it is I don't think he is expensive in this market where Madueke is going for 52 million, where Kudus has gone for 55. Don't get me wrong, Kudus is a good player. Gibbs White for 60. But In-Burmo, is he worth 65? In my opinion, yes, he is worth it in this market. 100%. Alanga going to Newcastle for 55 million. Whatever we think, these are not the prices that we set. These are the prices of the market. And In-Burmo, I think, is legitimately worth 65 million. Now, obviously, that is on the back of a season last year. But again, you could argue this about a lot of players. But he is Premier League proven. I believe he is a fighter. I believe he's a physical beast. And I want this player at this club. So kind of shifting that to the side, I'm really, and I know we don't want to, as a club again, be forced into paying the prices. So Brentford, to their defence, Mark Harris back in the chat. Hi, buddy. Hope you're doing well. What if Amorim plus Garnacho and Rashford in his first game has Garnacho and Rashford in his first game? Then I think he's done. I think he's absolutely. I think he's done. What I did read, and I don't know if you guys have read the same thing. So remember the Leicester striker? I can't remember his name. Slimani is Islam Slimani. He was good in FIFA 16, by the way. And he used to play for Leicester, and he was a sporting legend there. And towards the back end of his career, he basically wanted to go back to Sporting. So Amorim, I think, had just come in there, and he'd basically come into the team. And obviously, he came back, and he was basically a legend of the club. He came back, but I think what was abundantly clear, it was their kind of last payday, last hurrah, and he wasn't really fitting in to the Amorim system and what he was trying to do and what he was trying to play. So they had words, and he banished him to the reserve team. Now, all the fans were up in arms. All the fans were like, how can you treat a legend of the club in this way? How can you do all these things to this player who's a legend? And Amorim basically went to the board and said, look, it's him or me. If you need to back me, or I'm going to go. And they clearly backed him, and look at what he did there. So I would like to think, and I'm giving Ineos the benefit of the doubt here. Well, I'm not really, but I think any logical opinion and club to operate under a manager like that would like to think this manager could come in and have that same influence on this team. So being allowed to park aside the damage and the red flag for me that he's possibly done. Logic and Ineos aren't cooking. You're right. I 100% right. Logic and Ineos do not go together. Logic and this chat does, but Ineos 100%. So any logical person outside of them, like a normal fan, for example, we would go, let's just, this guy clearly knows how to inspire a team and get him in and let him do what he needs to do to this club, but also he needs players to back that up. So one of the things I think already Amarin suffers from with that is that I think he's been allowed to come in, and this is a coach who didn't want to come in until now, but was forced to come and take the job. Well, I say forced, he didn't have to take the job, but he did. Now, if the remit is that, and he's allowed to turf these players out, I like Cunha, I like In-Burmo, you need another 9 of their grade. We can't even sell 5. So how are we going to get another 9? I think that we need another 9. Well, you need at least another 9. I agree, to push for a top 2 or top 3 place, but right now it's just not going to happen, is it? Really, we can't even sell 5 players. We can't even get a goalkeeper out of the door who we all know needs to go, but we don't have the not us, but the club don't even have the balls to do that. So it just, if you've got a manager with a mandate to do that, and that's what he's clearly trying to do. So what I think is clear is that he's been told he needs, or he can do what he wants with the players to get them out. But what you need to do with that to show that a united ownership and club is you need to get rid of these players. And the problem that we've got is you're trying to act like this quick acting, slick operation of a club, when in fact we're not. We are super slow. We don't get anything done. We can't do one deal at a time. Even if that was the case, you'd like to think that we were a little bit slicker, a little bit more efficient to get these done as quick as we possibly can. Or if we knew this deal was going to take 6 to 7 weeks, surely you'd have 2 teams. So you'd have a team that's kind of like who are specialists in these long-term deals, and then you have another team who can then kind of try to line up another team. And they've had, and these are business experts. Which is quite clear that they're not football experts at all. So with these longer deals, I'd like to think that in the future, you'd have a specialist team who would deal with these longer deals, these longer difficult teams, and then you'd have this intermediary team who can then do the other deals. So, for example, like Spurs have just gone, and the fact that I'm using Spurs as an example here, they have gone from nothing to 2 players in the space of 5 days, which I just think this looks even worse. Ineos are chemicals company. I make that a dodgy Land Rover clone, hardly best in class. They also, if you didn't know, depending on where you are in the world, so here you get like a Asda, and you get like a Tesco. So basically, that's like our shopping mall place for our food and whatever else. And Ineos do a body spray for men, and even that shit. They do an Ineos range for men, and they are awful. Spurs just got the Champions League money, so no surprise that they could get a couple of deals done. Yeah, I again, that is a fair point. That is the sad reality of where we are. Is that Spurs now being able to get those 2 deals done because they have the Champions League. So this is now the repercussions that we now face because of the financial implications. But to that point, and again, I'll speak about this all of the time. So for PSR, so Mark Harris says, if I could get funky with Everton, Leeds, Sunderland getting signings, watch below, not above. I could get funky with Everton. Yep. I mean, I'd need to look at the signings, but Sunderland, I've basically signed about 5 players. No, somebody's just about to get Henderson as well on a free. So I'm not saying that I want these players. I'm not saying that I want these 3 players, but these clubs are starting to get these deals done. Okui Solomon, welcome to the chat. So you're saying, is In-Burmo confirmed? That's it. So Brentford is getting Henderson on a free. In-Burmo, my friend, is it confirmed? No. We're almost waiting because no one else is going to get it first. So everyone else will say, "Oh, it's done." There are a couple of aggregators and a couple of channels and whatever else went live with it last week. And I will, as we are speaking, as of 11:31 UK time on the 11th of the 7th, I'll have a little look. And as far as I am aware, from what I can see right this second, that In-Burmo is not done yet. So I want to know what do we all think about this. So I give my humble opinion on it, that I think there are concerning elements to this. On one hand, it could be we're trying to keep that deal down. There are reports of 70 million for him. Do I think that's a bit overpriced? I do, and I think that would include the United tax. So I do think we need to bring that down. There are other aggregators and reporters basically saying that In-Burmo, what we're trying to do is we're trying to structure this deal to be fairly so basically they want more money up front. So instead of us say offering 65 say plus 7 or 65 plus 10, those are the achievable things to get into a deal. They're actually looking for say 60 million, say plus 5, or 60 million plus 2. So I think what they're trying to do is that they want a bigger uplift on the money that they will actually get. So there's that as well. So I'm kind of the mindset that it's that, or other people may say, and this could be a out there theory, is that do we actually need to sell to buy to get this done? So Brentford is getting Henderson on free. Yes, they are. That's right. We're not giving Brentford the money they want, so we will not be getting In-Burmo this season. Maybe next year. Can we offer Brentford the Glazers in a nappy? in a nappy holding a fiver. I love that comment, Joe. I think you raise an interesting talking point there. I kind of held that opinion for quite a while, that the longer we don't get this done, the danger that we're in, that either side pulls the plug on this deal. But part of me says, are we really going to pull out on a deal that we spent 6 weeks, 7 weeks trying to get done? But In-Burmo's got 2 years left on his deal. So if we pull out this year, would we go back in for him kind of next year and wait for a year? And then if we do that, someone else may come in for this window to try to get him. But I just wonder, because of the lack of news, I guess I can only surmise, if In-Burmo doesn't come, fans will be annoyed, and hey, they'll pay anyway. if In-Burmo doesn't get done, I can't see a scenario. Well, I can, but I can't see a scenario whereby if the In-Burmo deal doesn't get done after all this time, how Ineos and the Glazers don't look stupid, and how, and as Mark Harris says, that it will not stop people from coming to this club, even if. So when people are talking about how can we get the Glazers out to like to stand outside and to like to protest against them or not go to games. For I think for every season ticket fan, there's about another 5 or 6. So with that, you're right. There's always going to be somebody who's going to want to see that team, irrespective of how bad they are. They're always going to want to come to this club and see this club. This is the power of this club, even though the Glazers have pretty much tried to destroy us financially, destroy the actual physical hardware of this club. There are still fans that want to come. So Bobby's in the chat. Hello, Bobby. I hope you're doing well. So I would like to know where are all that on this In-Burmo deal. Do we think it's going to get done? I'd love to know if you think it's actually going to be completed. How much is going to be completed for, and when do you think it's going to get done? So I was of the opinion. I think I said it on Wednesday that I was of the opinion that it's going to get announced by today, maybe Monday, and he'll be holding up the purple kit. So I believe it's the purple kit coming out next week, and he'll be on the American tour, and he'll be holding up that purple kit. So that's sort of where my thoughts are. I'd be really interested to know in chat where you think we're going to be with that In-Burmo deal. I think if Wissa over the weekend develops, I think we're in trouble. I think that deal. I think the In-Burmo deal could be in the balance, and again, potentially, then what we're going to end up doing is end up paying 70 million anyway, because Brentford are not going to want to get that deal done, and we're going to end up paying a load of money on that deal. So, for another day, so 10 Hag, so Iqbal for 500 grand. I thought he had talent. Sorry for going TARDIS on you, Iqbal. God, yeah. I mean, how many other players have we sold that have gone on to do well? That have gone on to do well. Maybury was another one we said. I don't think he's gone on to do well, but players like that. I know we are investing heavily in the youth, so that's a good thing. I know Mark has a strong opinion on this, and so do I, that we're investing in this youth. And I think maybe Mark and I quite align on this. Is I don't understand why we didn't start to play that youth, and to go back to that Iqbal point there. In the past we've had these amazing players, or these amazing youth players, and we don't play them. I just sort of, I just don't know. So In-Burmo, I'm really hoping. Again, I'm getting so tired. No wonder I've had trolls. So just to let the chat know, just in case we get an infiltration into the chat. I've already had one of my first trolls to tell me that we need to close the channel down. Because basically I regurgitate, which I end up, because apparently that this channel copies off everybody else, and I should close down on the basis of that. Now, my whole point of this is that, but then you need to go through every single social media, every single YouTube account, every single paper, media, because guess what? Everyone has their opinion, right? But for me, it's like water off a duck's back. The biggest thing for me is that I just love talking to you guys. I give my opinion across, whether I'm right or wrong. I am not right all of the time. You can just ask my other half on that. I'm right probably 5% of the time. And, I just love giving opinions on here. I think this chat is fantastic. And again, what I want to create here is whether you like what we do or not, I will always try, as long as we are respectful. I really enjoy talking about our crazy ideas about who we're going to sign, talking about the past. I don't mind if we change topic on stuff as well, as long as it's related to a little bit to what we're talking about. And if you just want to go randomly off, then I'm happy with that as well. So I really want the shows to be led by the chat. I can come on with the things that I want to talk about, come on with the news, but I love just talking about random stuff as well. So other than that, it really is absolutely bare. Other than talking about just do your own thing, being real hurts people. The truth is too powerful. It's true. I think it's true. I think the fact that we're having our real chats on here, I love the fact that you guys, if I say something and I don't know the answer, you guys will tell me the answer because you guys are smart. We have our opinions, and we're not going to be silent for anybody at all. So yes, it is a really quiet day so far today, other than talking about what other clubs are, and it depresses me right now. It is depressing me because I think what is really clear, and to go back to Joel's point about Spurs being in the Champions League, and now they're getting the funds for that. This is where we are now as a club, and we are sell to buy. And the bit that I don't get, and you can tell me your thoughts as well in the chat, is we needed to buy players. So Cunha's in the bag, and Burmo could be in the bag. Sometimes you need to speculate to accumulate because you need to buy players. We don't do that, and I don't know where your thoughts are on this. Is should you really be playing for two sets of players? So if you're paying for a Sancho, should you then be paying for an In-Burmo on top of that as well? And what's Mark saying there? Don't stress too much. The players sleep well on their bloated contracts. Exactly. So should we be paying for two sets of players? Now, I think any efficient club who knows that they can get rid of these players. So whatever happens, they're going to get rid of these players. Okay. But for two reasons, I don't think this is something that we can't do. One, because we don't have cash. So we know we don't have any space to maneuver outside of what these players are worth. And because we know we're crap at selling. So you've got a club who is, from a historical perspective and a cash that we create, we are one of, or if not the biggest club in the world. But it's like your neighbor who basically has a big flash Porsche, big house, when actually he's in a load of debt and everything he buys is on a credit card. It's not real. And what's happening is now we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And actually, when it comes down to the fact that we need players, we can't because we have to sell. So the focus now should be on selling these players. As embarrassing and a banter club that we've actually become, and I know PSR for a lot of people is an issue, I wouldn't even really, I'd be less worried if it was PSR and we had a bunch of cash and it was because of PSR. This is not even to do with PSR. This is to do with the physical amount of cash. And it just goes to show the state that the Glazers were actually in, and how Ineos have come in, and Ineos have shown to me no appetite to really change this club and focus on these deals. Now we need to sell players. Anana really doesn't need to go, but he's not going to go basically because of the massive contract he's on. Luke Shaw needs to go because he's just a waste of skin. I don't know about him as a human being. I'm sure he's great. I'm sure he's not like every other footballer on the planet. He says again, he should be going. He was 18 when he came to this club. Why is he? Why is he still here? You've got Rashford that needs to go. Fingers crossed. Now that's gonna be pushed forward, and he's gonna go to Barcelona. Handy Flick wants him, so just get that deal done. Sancho needs to go out the door, and then you got the likes of Højlund. I think any decent club would just say, look, we tried, it's not working out. If you want to stay, but you probably won't play. So it's up to you. And I do think he is that sort of player that would go. And I suppose the others, the Garnachos. So Garnacho, the fact that he's still here should be a really easy deal to do. Now, I didn't jump on that yesterday. To go back to the troll. So I didn't jump on that yesterday, basically because I wanted to see what happened on that. And obviously there were conflicting reports that said that the president had come out and said that we wanted this player, we're going to do whatever we can to sign him. And it all transpired to be just a load of bollocks. So Garnacho is obviously looking for a move in the Premier League, and obviously he clearly wants to move to the Premier League. And I think his only outlet really is going to be Aston Villa. I don't think Chelsea are going to sign him. I do know a couple of Chelsea fans, and Garnacho's looking for a brain. I think he's looking. Yeah, he is. The sad thing is, the potential's there, the talent's there, but as you say, the people around him, he's believed his own hype, and they've got into his head, and the fact that he's trying to dictate, and this is a typical move of an egotistical, narcissistic type of player who believes that they can kick and scream and get what they want by putting on another rival shirt, that he's going to get his move because that's what he wants. He's a child with a father. He is a father as well. So it makes you wonder, really, like, as a, and we can go off here. I mean, I've got 3 children, and I remember like having like my first child and sort of like how I mean, she's older now, and you do change, and for some people you don't. For some people it makes you change, and for me it kind of makes you change to know that you've got another person you've got to provide for. You've got a person that you've got to look after. They've got to look after you, and you've got to kind of be an inspiration to them. So by behaving in this way, I get he's a dad and he's got people to provide for. He knows he's going to get paid, so that's not an issue. I mean, I know people will say, oh, he's got a family to support, like he's not going to get paid, right? So wherever he goes, he's going to get paid. But what sort of example is he setting for his child? I know his child's too young, but what sort of example are you setting by kicking and screaming, chucking your toys out of a pram? Where's your pride? He's got fire, but 100% the kid's got fire. He's still young. He's got that flair, and I think wherever he goes, he's going to be a fantastic player. But as a human being, as a dad, where's your self pride? This is the sort of thing where you can argue. I think there's both points to the argument here, whereby you've got a contract. You are contracted to a club, but when you sign that contract, and you want to get into this game, it's like me moaning about people who say mean things to me on here, or people who say mean things off of it. Water off a duck's back. Like, as you get older, you just, I I don't care. I do care, but I don't care about the sort of bad stuff. So Mark Harris, so Garnacho needs grounding. I would ask him to volunteer on a cancer ward for 3 days. Do you know what? I think as a point, I think that's an extreme point, but I get 100%. You could argue you want to make him like to go to like a hospice, right? Obviously, that's a bit extreme as well, but how do you ground these? How do you ground these young men who were given hundreds of thousands? What have they done to earn that money? Don't get me wrong; they've been young and they've had to maybe fly away from home, but it's not like so. For example, Beckham, Keane, they left home at 13 and they come up to a big club, and back then is a different time. United was scary. It wasn't about going into your lavish clubs. It was about they would go into digs and they would share, rooms with boys that they didn't know, cold even, and then they would go on like a YTS scheme, and then they would go and clean players' boots. They weren't allowed out after certain times, so their focus was on being good human beings. Ferguson for what he said. So United were disciplined. George Best in digs, worked his way up. So Bobby's off to the gym. Man after my own heart. I think after the show, I think I might be at the gym as well, buddy. So have a good one. Exactly. All the legends. So let's look at this from a viewpoint, right? Is that look at all the legends of the club, and I'm talking about proper legends. Best, Law, Charlton. You can even go like beyond that. Robson. Hughes, Giggs, Cantona, Schmeichel. Rooney, even to a point, because even Rooney at that point was cleaning boots. Cristiano. All these players came up from backgrounds that weren't full of money, and I'm not saying that he has, but they come up, and then when they came into this club, they still had to clean people's boots. When they went to train, they were kicked. They are not kicked because for any other reason why they were trying to teach the older ways. So you look at that of how we used to train, how Ferguson used to manage the team, how Ferguson wouldn't sign a player based on their family history. So he would go and he'd look at the parents, he'd look at the home that they came from. He even go as far as looking at the injuries of their parents. So he would go back and say, like for X person's dad, what's he like from a physical, like, because he wanted everything. He wanted to know everything about that player. So you then go forward into now, how many legends do we have at this club? And is the correlation between we now just give these young kids money from a young age, we pay their families, we give them a house, give them jobs, they come over, so they don't necessarily have to work as hard. And look at the players that we've produced. Now you can argue that's football nowadays, but I'm just talking about us as a club. Is there a wonder why the legend of the club that we don't have? Because the values that we used to have, the values that used to make this club what it is, that were there probably up until 2012 or 13 when Ferguson left. The values were still there. And I think that is one of the biggest things that we suffer from in this club now are the values, and the values that have been lost because we're owned by mercenaries who don't understand this club, who don't understand what the values are. All they understand are those pound signs. Max Harris says no world-class players at Real Madrid or Barcelona aren't knocking the door down. Standards are shattered, and that's what it comes down to. That's where you know. That's where you know. Sadly, but it's the fact of life. irrespective of whether we're a big club, when Real Madrid come calling, when like the Barcelonas come calling for your players, it's almost an acceptance in some respects that there are clubs that just have a little bit more of a glamorous lifestyle in the sun and whatever else that it is. And when they come for your players, you know as a club you're doing something right. Not to say that it always happens. There have been players like over the past years that have come to the club and tried to get our players, and we've said no, but they've tried to. No one's coming to knock down at our door. So Barcelona and the Rashford thing, they're not battering down our door for this player. They want this player, but they are not showing the hand and then don't want to pay full price. There's no bidding war for these players. So no world-class players breeds no world-class players, no standards. And this is now where we are at this club. And I think we sort of always come back to these shows, and we always kind of talk about this, is the fact that whatever we're doing, we're negotiating for deals for players. We're trying to sell players. The way we conduct ourselves off the pitch, the players, the way they conduct themselves off the pitch, the way that they were allowed to behave, the way that they conduct themselves on the pitch. You know, Fernandez, I'm going to mention him and a lot of the other players, but I mentioned Fernandez because he's the captain of the team and he leads this team. He goes hiding. He conducts himself like, even to the point where people surround our players. Like I think Amas in one of the games, 18 years old, being surrounded by a bunch of players, and Euro is the only player that comes in and protects him. No, we don't even protect our own players. Like on the pitch, you want to see that as much as you don't want players fighting, and you don't want to see that. If one of your players gets hurt, particularly these young kids, where are the senior players? So there's this systemic across the board from ownership all the way to the end, whereby we just absolutely fail. And until the attitude of the club changes, I think this is where we're going to be, for a long, long time, because we need to change this and the things that we do. Mike Harris. So Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho should be told no access to Carrington or Old Trafford to get a new club. They're taking the piss. 100% agree with you. But believe it or not, the Players Association, because they're all part of a union, which is ridiculous, says that I believe I need to read it, but they basically allude to the fact that you can't do that to a player. So if they've got a contract with you, you have to be reasonable. So, if they want to come to train, you can't stop them from coming to the training ground. You've got to provide the facilities. It doesn't mean they get to play in the first team. Now, Old Trafford, I don't know for games whether he could just leave him out of the team and leave him at home. But I almost think players down tools, though. Exactly. Players can down tools, and that's fine. But the moment the club would down tools on the players, and this is again, and this we could bring this into like another show, and this is the problem: the protection so much of the players, and what about the protection for the club, the protection for the fans who invest so much money into this club. And whatever they do, and this is what they don't get. So this is why I do think that Rashford should be allowed to come to the ground. He should be allowed to come to Carrington, but be away and get to watch his players, or get to watch his teammates, not be allowed anywhere near them, but watch how they interact with new players. Almost, I want him to watch what the team is like without him, and to grow without him, and then comes back on a game day. Leave him there. Leave him watch the fans. Leave him listen to the fans. Listen to the fans singing the names of these players. Listen to the fans sing the names of the older players. Not to inspire him, because I want him to come back, but just so he knows what it means to play for this club. And this is ultimately, for whatever I say, whatever anyone else says about players, about this and that, what this boils down to is playing for the badge. And that's quite a cliche thing to say, but it's not just about playing for a badge. That badge represents players of the past, the Busby Babes. It represents death. It represents those players who died. As a club, I don't think what people don't get about that is that we were nearly finished as a club. A whole team of this talented, these young men, these young boys were basically, they were killed. And we didn't nearly have a club. It would have been so easy. And then Sir Matt, not only did he come back from that, who was injured himself, people don't seem to notice he was in the plane and he was injured himself, come back from all that, some of the players that were left, and they came back and they rebuilt this club. Like, how does that not inspire these players? And then they come back. Not only did they win the league, but they won a European Cup. After all that happened, they still managed to come back. And okay, yeah, we didn't necessarily do well for the next 20 odd years, but then we came back again. And then, we won league after league after league. And again, I was very fortunate to see that era. But, listening to like my uncles, like my grandparents talk about and watching this stuff happen, this is what these players don't get. This is what the ownership doesn't get, is what this club is about. So this club and these players who are on strike and they won X amount of money and whatever else, they don't get what this club is. And this is the problem. And I kind of want to end on this show, this show as well, on that note, is that I think you're right. He doesn't have the basic social skills because I don't think he's been taught that. And again, this harks back to it, and I'm going to keep going back to the past, is that under the likes of Robson, Bruce, Keane, Cristiano is the biggest example. Probably the last success at this is that you had a young player who basically was this young kid, really basically didn't have any social skills, was basically from a part of the world where, it's a simple life, right? But he got his education at this club. He got his education with the likes of Rio. I mean, I don't know how good or bad that is, but he got his, he learned about life and learned about social skills and how to behave. I know you got people like Giggsy and that, but maybe you could take that aside. But he basically learned how to behave. He learned his social skills. He learned, and he didn't do too badly. And this is what we lack. And as a club, when he leaves, when Garnacho goes, that for me is a failure. That's a failure on the club. That's a failure to teach these principles to a young player like that with so much potential, who should be at this club, who should be entertaining fans for the next 10 years. And then Real Madrid will come in, call for him, give us like 100 million for him. But the club has failed him. And you can bring all that history, all that past, everything that we said. And this is where we are right now, is that we have this club who cannot sell players. People don't want our players. We're basically begging for people to come. We're offering loans. We're offering crisps, sandwiches, whatever we're doing. And we're offering all this to unload these players because we don't have standards. And then we're then trying to negotiate these deals, knowing that we're getting our cash because we can't sell these players. And I think that is a that is a sad state of affairs. So that's where we are. And I think that's when we're going to end the show today. Again, another hour. It's gone really, really fast. Again, I honestly, please don't underestimate how amazing this community is. How I like the fact that we don't necessarily always agree on stuff, but you have put your opinions in, and we can talk about all different kinds of stuff. I just please don't underestimate what you do for this channel. I think it's really important that we're all here for the same. We're all here for the same thing. I think you guys are amazing. This is the highlight of my day, to talk about something that I'm passionate about. It's so amazing to talk to you guys who now I've been speaking to for like a couple of weeks. It's fantastic. I hope you can come to as many shows as you can, put in what you can, your time, and I appreciate as well, it's your time as well. I know you could be doing other things, but you choose to listen to me for an hour and interact. And, I just think it's absolutely fantastic. So Mark Harris, Bobby, everyone else in the chat, I thank you so much. And you, Mark, will have a great rest of your day, because I know it's late there. Have a great day with your family, or whatever you're doing. And if anything breaks, if In-Burmo breaks today, or anything breaks, a cell or whatever, I'll jump on here and we can have a little chat about that. So thank you for watching, guys. It does really mean a lot. And I will see you again on the next one, hopefully very soon. If not, enjoy your weekends. I'll see you soon. Take care, all. Bye-bye. Anana breaks a cup. Probably. Oh, cracks me up. Right. See you later, guys.